You want to talk about more lies from the right? We all know that this bill would absolutely explode the deficit. That's not even up for debate. But listen to what Ron Johnson had to say over the weekend about this big, beautiful bill. He is a two-faced phony and a liar.
My biggest problem is that we really weren't returning spending to a reasonable pre-pandemic level. But through multiple meetings with President and his economic advisors, I'm convinced that they are committed to returning to a reasonable pre-pandemic level spending, and I'll be highly involved in a process to achieve and maintain it. So that's at the crux.
Ron Johnson is a phony and a liar. And what Ron Johnson is doing is going through his normal response of BS. I would call it nothing more, nothing less than a performative exercise. And he starts complaining about the debt. And now he's claiming that he's had these conversations with Donald Trump and they're committed to some sort of process. What process would that be? Destroying the country? Ron? What you want to talk about one of the biggest brown nosers and two-faced liars? It's absolutely Ron Johnson. Now, Ryan Zinke is another one. Ryan Zinke is a guy that is going to have guaranteed high-quality government-financed health care for the rest of his life. But you see, Ryan is trying to take that away from you. He's trying to defend these budget cuts, which, as we know, again, will be taking millions and millions of people off of the health care that they need. Listen to Ryan Zinke and what he had to say about this.
Congressman, you just were talking about how the economy is not doing well, that people are living paycheck to paycheck. They're going through a rough time. Democrats argue that this bill is basically taking from the poor to give tax breaks to the rich. How do Republicans explain this to their constituents?
Well, living paycheck to paycheck is on the premise that you're working. But look, if you're an able-bodied male and you choose to sit on the couch and not work and you're getting Medicaid, that's taking benefits from someone else who needs it. And there's 36 trillion reasons why we got to look at fraud, waste, and abuse. And if you're abusing the system where you can work but choose not to, that's fraud. That's abuse. So yeah, if a lot of people in North Carolina choose not to work, I would say, look, get a job.
I would say Ryan Zinke, as I mentioned earlier, is guaranteed to have high-quality health care. Government-financed health care for the rest of his life. And he wants to lecture us. He wants to lecture people like you and me who should have health care and who shouldn't. Well, he's all set. I would assume his family's all set. But Ryan wants to lecture us. It's usually people with the money and people with the finances and people with the health care that want to lecture people that are struggling, living paycheck to paycheck. Don't you find that interesting? The billionaires and the people that are CEOs of Fortune 500 companies that don't want to raise minimum wage. It's always those people, isn't it? Markwayne Mullin is another fool. Here's Markwayne Mullin over the weekend, again, defending this big, beautiful bill, as he calls it. And then he starts talking about the poverty line, and he lies again, this time on national television. Listen to this.
There's only over 70 million people signed up for Medicaid. Now, you're going to tell me there's not room to make cuts to actually have it in place, Medicaid in place for those that it was actually designed for? There's plenty of room there. And as I said, no one likes to lose federal income dollars either, but the different states are taking advantage of it, and we're giving the states till 2032, so we're giving them 7 years to wean themselves off the federal dollar that they're taking advantage of. Now, it doesn't mean that our Medicaid matches still aren't going to be there. That just means that they took advantage of Obamacare and inflated their numbers in Medicaid that people that are signed up currently in their state should never be there, like able-bodied working individuals that have no dependency, no medical condition, and no reason to work other than they're lazy. And what we're saying is hey, how about you work 20 hours a week? Now, you and I probably work 20 hours over the weekend.
Exactly.
But let's say you work 20 hours over the, and by the way, you don't even have to work. You can volunteer if you want to, or you can go to college, but you have to do something to better yourself.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Markwayne. Let me just correct the record with Markwayne Mullin's lies, and let me give you the actual stats. It's not so hard to do your own research and to get the actual facts to prove that these mega buffoons lie to you every single day. Approximately 18% of Americans live below the poverty line in America. That comes out of about 61 million Americans. About 78 million are enrolled in Medicaid, with some 37 million being kids enrolled in Medicaid and CHIP. Markwayne Mullin is a liar and a fraud. What I want to do is I want to explain to all of you what has transpired here over the weekend, what has transpired here in the last couple days. I don't know if this big, beautiful bill is going to pass legitimately and be implemented into law or not. What I can tell you is they took the first step to get there, which is dangerous and it's scary, and Murkowski was the ultimate factor in reasoning why that took place. So what I'm going to play for you now is a bunch of lies put forth by the Republican Party. Now, I know that probably won't shock many of you because that's all MAGA Republicans seem to do these days is lie, come up with conspiracy theories, and curl themselves into a pretzel to defend Orange Man. But now we're talking about the big, beautiful bill, and let me start off by playing you some lies just in the last few days, some things that Donald Trump has said about this big, beautiful bill. Have a listen to this.
We're cutting $1.7 trillion in this bill, and you're not going to feel any of it. And your Medicaid is left alone. It's left the same. Your Medicare and your Social Security are strengthened. We're not cutting.
So that's a complete and blatant lie. There are major cuts to Medicaid. In fact, even MAGA Republicans have said at least 10 million people, admittingly, will lose their medical coverage. One of the reasons is because they have this new work requirement, as if people that are out there that are struggling to find work can't get on Medicaid. There are people out there that are struggling. There are people out there that want to work, but they can't work for a number of different reasons. That's a blatant lie. Mark my words, if in fact this is implemented, millions and millions of Americans are going to lose their health care coverage, and sadly some of them will be losing their lives. We can't allow this to happen. Another lie, Donald Trump claiming that this will happen if this big, beautiful bill doesn't pass.
Well, look, it's a great bill. It's a massive tax cut. If it's not approved, your taxes will go up by 68%. Think of that, 68, a record, the highest in the history. The Democrats won't approve it only because politically it's so good for the Republicans. The Democrats aren't approving it. But think of what they're not approving. They're not approving border security. We've done a great job at the border, but we have to add some wall. We have to do, various things. We have no money for that.
So, again, that's a blatant lie. Now, 64% of some households could see a slight increase, but he's making it out to be that every American would see increases and this would be a done deal. Again, that's a complete and blatant lie, and there's nothing that actually would prove anything that he is saying about this big, horrible bill. So Donald Trump did do a media scrum earlier today on Air Force One. And Caitlin Collins from CNN, who I think is a very good journalist, mentioned to Donald Trump that Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building any nuclear weapons. Again, Tulsi Gabbard testified under oath. She said that. Listen to Donald Trump's response and listen to this exchange.
Always said that you don't believe Iran should be able to have a nuclear weapon, but how close do you personally think that they were to getting one? Because Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having it. I got us one on you.
Again, a little hard to hear as he's on Air Force One, but he just said he doesn't care what Tulsi Gabbard said under oath. This man is crazy. Do we understand we have a psychopath in the White House right now? He's crazy. He's a lunatic. And he has our nuclear codes. And so does Pete Hegseth, according to his own mother, a woman abuser. Now, Donald Trump is the guy that went on Truth Social yesterday and said, you should, if you're in Tehran, you should evacuate. So Donald Trump was asked, is there a threat that's incoming? Listen to his response on that one.
What was the thinking on the call for Tehran to evacuate? Is there a threat or is there incoming? What was the thinking on the full evacuation?
I want people to be safe. And that's always possible. A thing like that could happen. I just want people to be safe.
I just want people to be safe. So does that mean we all should evacuate the United States of America? Is there anybody but believes that? He said it himself, calling for people to evacuate Tehran. Why is he telling people to leave? I would like to ask that question to Donald Trump. I'd certainly like to ask that question to members of his administration. Why? If there is no imminent threat, which, by the way, is a lie, Donald Trump is meeting with his national security advisor. Sources saying he's considering bombing nuclear facilities in Iran. That officially means we're at war with Iran. So Caitlin Collins asks, are there any guarantees that we won't get involved militarily with Iran? And listen to the way Donald Trump responds to that.
Is there any guarantee that if the U.S. did get involved militarily, that a U.S. bomb could destroy Iran's nuclear program and facilities?
Shoot everything or anything in life you done it. Look at you, right? There's no guarantee.
You think if the U.S. got involved militarily, it would actually wipe out Iran's nuclear program, or where's your assessment of that?
Well, I hope their program's going to be wiped out wrong before that. But they're not going to have a nuclear weapon.
So again, there you go. Donald Trump on Air Force One. And once again, Caitlin Collins asking relevant questions. And for whatever reason, Donald Trump not answering the questions in an honest fashion.